Hey, it's Rafael here, and after 6 years of working as a therapist and analyzing people from over 20 countries, I found that the process of healing trauma is actually quite simple, and in this video I want to demystify it. So everything started with me sharing a simple story on Reddit, and at first I confess that I was a bit hesitant to do it, because I just thought that having this difficulty made me look weak and vulnerable. But anyway, I decided to do it and the response was surprisingly positive. And I realized that many people shared the exact same difficulties. So a few weeks ago, I did something I thought I'd never be able to comfortably do. I went to one of my favorite cafes, but unfortunately, the food wasn't as good as usual. And in the past, I just pretend that everything was okay, and if it happened a second time, I'll never come back. However, this time was different. It took me a while to figure out what was wrong with the food, so after finishing eating most of it and paying, I calmly mentioned that there was a problem. And they said something like, everything was really good, but unfortunately the bread was a bit stale. I'm only mentioning it because I really like coming here. Well, the conversation was in Spanish, so it probably wasn't as fluid and a bit more dramatic. And I noticed my heart racing as I was doing it, mainly because my Spanish isn't that good yet. But I knew it was the right thing to do because when you don't communicate properly, you'll never get the chance to the other person to change, and this is the perfect way to build resentment. It's funny that many people asked how I was treated, and everyone in the cafe was really nice about it. I already came back, and the food was amazing as always. And I've been thinking about what it takes to truly heal from trauma for the past few weeks, and this situation made me realize how far I've come. It was a great reminder that working on yourself really changes your beliefs and your natural reactions. Avoiding conflict, my desire for perfection, and people pleasing has shut my voice for many years. My boundaries were constantly being crossed and this was a major source of anxiety. But I can confidently say that those codependent days are long gone. And upon reflection, I realized that what works to heal trauma isn't sexy. It's your mundane and daily choices that will make a difference. You don't have to do anything crazy. And I wish someone had told me that before I tried the most ridiculous things in hopes of finding a cure. One of the main problems is that when you're dealing with trauma and have a childish mentality, you want an instant solution. You don't want to hear that it will take time and that basic actions and daily choices will work. You want to participate in those woo-woo healing retreats. You want to find a real shaman and take ayahuasca. You want to feel those overwhelming cathartic moments that will free you from generational trauma. Only to find out 2 days later that you're still the same person and dealing with the same shit. And then you fight with yourself. I thought I'd healed. Why do I still feel the same? Then you get addicted to those experiences, thinking that you need more of them to finally heal and enter a vicious cycle. Well, if you ever try these things, you know they don't work. Sure, I feel people can benefit from it and finally find relief. The problem is that these experiences are rarely translated into practical changes, making them almost useless and unreliable. What few people understand is that healing is a construction and not a single moment in time. And for some reason, we as human beings have a very hard time grasping this notion, and I see it every day with my clients. And I'm also included. So there comes a point in their process when they're finally experiencing themselves differently. Most of the anxiety and depressive feelings are gone, and they're feeling more confident and motivated to give life to their projects. And I always ask them what changed. And this is kind of a tricky question by now. All of them tend to attribute these changes to a single moment. They say that something happened in their workplace, or that they finally had a conversation with their partners, or even that, one day I just woke up differently. By now, I'm already used to these replies, and this is the moment I do the best I can to show them that there was a build-up leading up to this moment, and that all of those tiny actions that seemed insignificant finally paid off. And why is this so important? So they can realize that they created this change and that they have agency. It wasn't a moment in time nor an external event. They're in control and can perpetuate this new state. You won't find what you're after in that new crazy Illuminati therapy. The real magic lies in the mundane choices you make on a daily basis. That's why the simplest way to build a new sense of identity is by backing it with actions. You need concrete proof. Every time you experiment and feel yourself in this different way, You're stepping out of trauma and solidifying this new identity. At first these actions seem invisible, but don't be fooled, because they have a compounding effect. So stop looking for the ultimate mental health hacks. This is childish and not sustainable. We must focus on building a solid inner foundation that will produce true and lasting changes. You have to take intelligent actions, as they are the building blocks to the new version of yourself. You create momentum for your mind to shift every time you just decide to go to the gym and eat healthier, when you say no to a toxic family member, or when you work on your projects instead of doom scrolling or watching adult videos. You choose to change today, and when you least expect, you're doing it effortlessly, because this is the new you. Every tiny action matters. That's why the healing process is quite simple. However, it obviously requires effort and discipline. But you're probably asking yourself why simple actions matter so much. Well, the first thing you have to know is that when we are dealing with trauma, a split happens, and there is a partial to complete dissociation from our bodies. We start living in our heads, and this tends to trigger maladaptive daydreaming and lack of interest for the real life. A classic poor and puella eternum symptom. Now, we're no longer in the present moment. We're constantly fighting illusory demons in our minds, worrying about the future, and indulging in useless pondering about the past. The cycle never ends. To make matters worse, we believe that we'll be able to solve everything intellectually. We start researching, reading books, and binge watching videos about trauma. Maybe that's how you found me. But anyway, we start learning a bunch of things and crazy concepts, and we even start teaching our friends about it, and it feels like we're unraveling the mysteries of the universe. However, despite accumulating all of this knowledge, nothing changes, and in many cases people feel even worse. Why? Again, because they're trying to solve everything intellectually, instead of making practical changes in their lives. Many people even use a lot of psychological terms to explain their traumas. However, this enhances the split even more. And worse, they not only keep their traumas alive, but are continuously re-traumatizing themselves and living in a powerless state. They get absolutely in love with their neurosis and constantly revisit traumatic memories, trying to find an answer. The problem is that no why is ever satisfying enough. There's always something else they need to understand. This makes it impossible to change, and deep down, people use this strategy to avoid taking responsibility for their lives. The truth is that you don't need to fully understand things to change. It's only productive to look at the past when we use this knowledge to make practical changes in the present moment. We must accept things as they are and stop running from making tough decisions while we are indulging in what-ifs and wishing that things were different. We will never heal. Plus, depending on the situation, you should stop looking at your traumas completely and only focus on the present moment for a while. And if you're stuck in the mindset that you can't ever heal, I explored this matter in depth in my last video called Why Some People Never Heal from Trauma. But right now, let's finish this one. So, before this picture, the first thing we have to do is reconnect with our bodies and the practical aspects of life. We need to build a solid foundation by having good sleep, proper nutrition, and doing some form of physical exercise. And if you're anxious and depressed, that's the first thing that will make you instantly feel better. And this is important for two reasons. First, a simple way to understand trauma is as an unbearable emotion, like shame, rejection, abandonment, guilt, or some fear. And by building this solid foundation, we also get to improve our tolerance to it. Traumas have a biological and neurological aspect. That's why we have to take care of our bodies and our minds concomitantly. The popular term for it today is to regulate our nervous system. And second, you have to understand that when we work on transforming our bodies, we're also transforming our minds. And to me, this is the real secret and where the magic happens. So allow me to get a bit personal. Over 10 years ago, when I used to pack an extra 25 kilos or about 55 pounds of pure fat, I was tired and sleepy all the time. I didn't have the energy to do anything. And honestly, I felt disgusting when I looked myself in the mirror. And this made me retreat to my head even more. I was weak and constantly avoiding the challenges of life. My attitude was to constantly seek comfort and do the least amount of work possible. I never fully committed to anything. I was just a passive spectator watching my life being wasted by playing video games and eating copious amounts of food. I remember that when I was about 19, my family and I made our first international trip. We went to visit my uncle in the US. And that time I was already extremely addicted to food and I just couldn't stop eating. So you can imagine the amount of burgers, fries, pizzas and ice cream we had during the trip. I remember this one place, it was Five Guys. They just hand you this brown bag and there's fat dripping all over it. It's just insane. And a few days after we got back, we went shopping for new clothes and I just got my usual size, medium shirts and 32-ounce pants. But when I went to try the clothes, they just didn't fit. And I looked myself in the mirror and I seriously wanted to cry. There was the first time in my entire life when I objectively understood that I was slowly killing myself. Because I was in the store, I just managed to suck it up, and I remember returning all the t-shirts and keeping a larger pair of pants. That experience changed me. I just knew I had to do something not only about my health, but my life in general. So that same week, I spent the little savings I had buying a set of dumbbells, a few weights, and a bench. And I started consuming every video I could on bodybuilding, and I fell in love with it. I would experiment with new things every day, and I finally started seeing my body change. And after dropping 25 kilos, I wasn't the same guy anymore. I had learned how to rely on myself. I knew I could have goals and achieve them. I knew I was capable. Those sets of weights saved my life, and I mean it. Many people preach that we should just accept ourselves the way we are and be completely passive about it. But I disagree entirely. When we truly love ourselves, we do everything we can to change, and we hold ourselves to the highest standards. Not because we're punishing ourselves, but because we know we are capable of more and we want to achieve our potential. So the easiest way to change our sense of identity is by focusing on creating new behaviors. And the more we accumulate concrete proof in the direction of our goals, the more we experience our identity shifting. Every time I picked my dumbbells, I was affirming to myself that I was strong, focused, and disciplined. And after 6 months, this became a new reality because I experienced it deeply in my body. People think they have to be motivated or enter the right mindset to change, but it's the other way around. You first do the thing and your mind will begin shifting accordingly. You need to experiment yourself differently so your mind can change. So by engaging in some form of physical activity, you learn how to surpass your own limits, go all in and build perseverance. And not only that, we finally change our relationship with pain and understand that it is a vital part of the process. There isn't progress without struggle, and nothing truly valuable just, falls on our laps. We must conquer it. And by being connected with our bodies, we also learn how to be in the present moment and actually focus. Before transforming my mind and body, I couldn't sit still. I couldn't read 2 pages of a book before forgetting everything. And now I just launched my own book. It's just insane how much we can change when we truly apply ourselves. And I want you to experience the same thing. Lastly, committing to changing my body was also how I finally began separating myself from my parents. Eating healthy and taking care of our body was a foreign concept to my family. So engaging in this process forced me to place boundaries and craft my own values. It forced me to evaluate how I wanted to live my own life and make my own decisions. And if you're feeling unmotivated and have a hard time building habits and discipline, I have a very accessible course called Obliterate Procrastination that teaches you everything you need to know about it. Link in the description. This first step is extremely important so you can stop the bleeding and learn how to rely on yourself. When you regain your confidence, the sensation of feeling lost and hopeless disappears, and a very important thing happens. You begin accessing more positive emotions again, and they have the power to change how you view yourself and the world. According to Barbara Fredrickson, positive emotions amplify our creativity and learning capacity, make us envision new possibilities, boost our resilience, and allow us to bounce back from adversity more quickly. We feel more capable and gain the necessary perspective to finally investigate our stories and patterns in a productive way. And it's very interesting that I witness this happening very often during therapy sessions. In the beginning, the person is completely disoriented and hopeless, and after 1 hour of exploring the situation, accessing new emotions, and acquiring new perspectives, they find this incredible confidence to overcome their challenges. That's why it's so important to focus on building this foundation. Plus, when you're present and connected with yourself, your natural interests and authentic desires will come to the surface. And this takes us to the second step, focusing on creating a meaningful life and fulfilling relationships. And in my experience as a therapist, 99% of people know exactly what they want to do with their lives. However, they allow fear to get in the way. Maybe it's the fear of being rejected by the parents or the infamous fear of failure. However, you have to give yourself the right to deeply want to accomplish your goals and move towards them. You have to better yourself and redefine what failure means. Because deep in your soul, you know that you only fail when you know you could have given more, but you didn't. A meaningful life won't simply come to you. You have to meet it halfway. And it's by actively striving to overcome your fears and engaging with your natural interests that meaning is unraveled. Plus, motivation is unleashed when you know that what you're doing is deeply valuable to you. In very practical terms, living a meaningful life involves exploring our potential, dedicating ourselves to cultivating our talents, and putting them at the service of other people. Most people are constantly chasing immense highs and they don't realize that this is just a way to compensate for their lack of purpose and effort. And why effort? Well, again, because a sense of purpose has to be created. It won't fall on your lap. However, most people avoid this work and seek instant gratification with all kinds of addictions, like food, alcohol, or adult videos. And they have no clue why they're so anxious and depressed. When you live your life constantly choosing the easy way out and seeking comfort, you allow your talents to rot and they turn into poison. You adopt a narcissistic and childish mentality that everything has to serve you and only you. You never ask yourself how you can serve other people, and even if you do, it's only for personal gain. To find purpose, you need the courage to put yourself in a vulnerable position and follow your heart, because it's only in the sacred path that you find what's truly valuable to you, and you must allow yourself to be fully affected by it. You must deeply care about something. Again, when you have a narcissistic mentality, you keep saying that you don't care about anything, that everything is meaningless. I found that this is just another cop-out to avoid putting effort and truly engaging with life. I have worked with many clients who clearly had something that could bring them purpose. However, they kept running away from it. And why? Because when you deeply care about something, you devote your life to it, and practical changes must be made to accommodate this sense of purpose. You can't live this only a fantasy. You must make it concrete and constantly work on your craft. First, because it brings immense pleasure when you're inspired to achieve excellence. And second, because you want to give your best gifts to the world. When you fully live this creative life, you can access a deeper layer of the human experience in the simplest moments. You're present and the activity itself is meaningful. Carl Jung calls that a numinous experience, or the numinosum, and the latest neuroscience calls that the flow state. I'll explore that in future videos, but the more you devote yourself to this activity and the creative aspect of your personality, the more you feel fulfilled. Well, if you're paying attention, you probably noticed that I haven't discussed the origins of trauma, or mommy and daddy issues, or if we should blame our parents or not. And it's not because it's not important to understand these patterns. I have a whole book on it. But because learning about this stuff means nothing if we don't act on them. Most people are already drowning in information, and this creates a comfortable illusion that they're doing something. However, the only thing that matters is what you do with this information. In the end, what truly heals some trauma is quite simple. It involves accepting everything as it is, being present, and stopping running from reality and your responsibilities. And now, it's up to you. Are you going to choose your fantasies or fully engage with life? Lastly, you can receive a free copy of the book I just mentioned and learn everything about the parental complex by joining my newsletter. Plus, you can find the complete guide that discusses this whole process and everything we explored here today in Cptsd The Shadow Integration Manual. Or you can come directly to the Audacity University and access all of my courses and receive my guidance in live meetings. All the links in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.